E aí pessoal, beleza? Aqui é o Etãozeira. Então, novamente aqui com vocês. Hoje vamos reagir à história insana por trás do programa de TV Donkey Kong, que eu acho que é primo do King Kong.
He's the leader of the bunch, you know him well, and he is finally back to kick some tail. DK, Donkey Kong, is having a massive moment right now. He was one of the standout characters in the billion-dollar Super Mario Bros. Movie. He has his own amusement park, and he is starring in one of the flagship games of the Nintendo Switch 2 in Donkey Kong Bonanza. But this isn't the first time Donkey Kong was having a moment. No. In the 1980s, Donkey Kong was an instant hit in his breakout game, Donkey Kong, where he and Mario first premiered. And while Mario would go on to become the franchise mascot, this wasn't the end for old DK. In the 90s, Donkey Kong had a similarly massive moment after the video game company Rare revived the giant gorilla with the smash hit video game Donkey Kong Country. The success of that game led to multiple sequels and spin-offs, merchandise, and even a French sketch show that featured motion-captured Donkey Kong characters interacting with real people in real environments.
Não era aquele lá, o joguinho da banana lá? O joguinho dele, não é? Ele tinha que ficar pulando, você tinha que ficar pegando as bananas, porque ele ia ficando forte.
The history of Donkey Kong and his multiple rises and falls that somehow led to this insane TV show, and his current revival era after years of dormancy. My name's Shoopy Doopy, this is the Shoopy Doopy Show, and without further ado, let's make like a banana and start the video.
Esse da
The
banana
origins of Donkey
do
Kong
Kong
are kind of a
Kong.
cosmic coincidence to begin with.
Não cheguei a
In
jogar muito
1980,
não.
Nintendo created this
Joguei
arcade game,
raramente, poucas
Radar
vezes.
Scope, hoping that it would be a hit.
Joguei
They were
mais
only able to sell about a third of their inventory, leaving them stuck with millions of dollars of unsold arcade cabinets and on the verge of financial ruin. So they came up with the idea to reprogram these machines into a hopefully more popular game and assigned a young Shigeru Miyamoto to design a new game that would work on these failed arcade cabinets. He came up with the idea to make a Popeye game where you play as Popeye and run and jump and climb ladders. However, licensing with the Popeye people fell through, so Miyamoto quickly reskinned the characters into his own OCs. Olive Oil became Pauline, Bluto became a giant gorilla, and Popeye became an Italian carpenter called Jumpman. The arcade game was called Donkey Kong after the titular gorilla, and upon release, the game was a massive success. Can you imagine how different the world would be if we got a Popeye game instead?
Caramba, tem
We'd be
game do
watching the
Popeye.
Popeye
Eu
animated
nem sabia que
movie,
tinha.
going to Super Popeye World, and playing Bluto Bonanza. Instead, we just got this creepy live-action Popeye
Só sabia
movie
dos
with Robin
desenhos, né?
Williams.
Mas do jogo eu não sabia não.
The sailor.
Loucura.
And I am what I am, what I am, what I am.
By the time Mario made the
A
jump
única coisa
onto
que eu
home
sabia de
consoles on the
Popeye era os
NES,
desenhos, né?
Donkey Kong was replaced with a new villain, King Koopa, or Bowser. And for years, it seemed like Nintendo was done with DK, satisfied with Mario as their mascot and Bowser as their main villain. That is, until 10
Tinha aquele
years
também, né,
later,
da Zelda,
when
né?
Donkey Kong
A Zelda.
Country came out for the Super
Aqueles
Nintendo in
antigos lá, né?
1994.
Nossa.
This was the first Donkey Kong game
Eu
to be
também joguei
made
pouco,
not by
mas
Nintendo,
eu
but
gostei.
instead
Quando eu
by
joguei
a
era da
British
hora
video
também.
game company called Rare. Nintendo
Teve
was
que
so
eu
impressed
gostei,
with the
mano.
3D graphic
Mas não era
capabilities
pra...
that they granted them the license
não
to
era
use
esses
their Donkey
jogos
Kong
de Android,
character
né?
and
Pra
invent a
celular.
whole new world
Era
for
mais
them to
jogo
inhabit.
tipo...
As you
Era
can see,
Play 2,
DK
né?
got a
Eu acho.
significant
Era
redesign.
Play 2, né?
He's much more buff
Eu acho que era
and
isso,
tough looking than Miyamoto's original
era de Play
cartoon
2, o
design.
antigo.
It was the
Que
90s,
era
baby.
do...
Everything had to be extreme.
Check it out, Extreme Center!
Era alguma coisa Able.
This game was another
Eu esqueci o
massive
nome agora,
success,
mano.
with critics praising its groundbreaking 3D visuals
Era uma menina,
and
mano, que ela,
fantastic music
tipo...
by composer David
ela-
Wise. And this kicked off
A história é
the
assim, tipo, ela
mania of the
viajava,
1990s.
tinha viagens...
Nintendo immediately greenlit a sequel to the
E
game.
tipo,
introduced
o avião
more
dela
Kongs
caía.
and Kremlings.
Nossa, uma
They
loucura,
ported the
mano.
games to Game Boy so you could
É
play
uma
Donkey
loucura.
Kong on
O
the
avião
go.
dela caía, ela ia
Got his
parar
own
num...
kart racing game on the N64.
num
And Donkey Kong
pântano, sabe?
finally
Num
made the
lugar
jump into
assim,
full 3D
todo
in
afastado
Donkey
do
Kong
mundo.
64, which
E
was
tipo,
the
ela tinha que
collectathon to
começar a
win all
viver caçando, tá ligado?
There was a
Ela
Donkey
tinha,
Kong
você pegava
mania,
arco e
a Donkey
flecha,
Kong
ela
card game,
tirava, você
endless
pá.
merchandise.
Nossa,
And it was in this environment of peak monkey mania that a small animation
É,
studio
mas
in
daí eu
France
só joguei
called
uma
Media
vez,
Lab
mas eu
acquired
gostei.
the rights to produce a Donkey Kong Country
Joguei uma vez
TV
só.
series, which is how we
Mas
got
foi a
this.
primeira vez que foi o melhor momento da minha vida que eu gostei mesmo. Eu achei bem da hora.
The Donkey Kong Country series follows DK and his fellow Kongs on Congo Bongo Island, where they live and try to protect the crystal coconut from the evil King K. Rool. The show was motion capture animated in a process that took 2 people to drive the animations. One person would perform the body movements, while the other would control the facial animations in real time, which is why it looks like this.
Anyone can do it, anyone can dance. My moves will hypnotize you, put you in a trance.
The first episode produced was titled Bad Hair Day, and is a pretty good encapsulation of what a typical episode of the show looks like. King K. Rool tries to steal the crystal coconut, but DK stops him, so he comes up with a plan to create a robot version of DK's humanoid girlfriend Candy Kong to cut DK's hair, thus causing him to lose his strength, much like the story of Samson and Delilah from the Bible.
Ah, tinha aquele lá também, né? Esqueci agora o nome também.
Oh, also when
Nossa,
the
nome,
robot
mano, pra
version
nome eu
Candy,
sou
she
ruim pra
starts
caramba,
singing
tá ligado?
this sensual song.
Eu lembro da
because
coisa, mas
this
não
show
lembro do
also
nome.
has musical numbers in
Mas
every episode.
era aquela raposinha lá, mano. Que era. Você tinha que. Eu acho
With
que
DK
era
bald and
correr, né?
weakened,
Alguma
K.
coisa
Rool is able
assim.
to easily
Aí você
steal
tinha
the
que pegar as
coconut.
coisas,
So
tinha que matar
Funky Kong
os
flies DK out to his
carinha.
banana plantation
Era uma
to
fora,
eat
mano.
bananas and
Era uma,
regain his strength. This
uma
obviously works,
raposinha,
and with
tipo, que
DK's strength
tinha uma
regained,
máscara
he's
que
able to
seguia
kick the
ela.
coconut back to Cranky and easily defeat the Kremlings.
É, que eu falando assim é meio voz, né? Não dá pra entender, porque
Banana Slamma.
eu não lembro o nome, tá ligado? Mas eu vou deixar a foto aqui do lado que
In the
vocês vão
end,
lembrar qual
DK
que é.
celebrates with his girlfriend
Era bem da hora
Candy,
também.
but there are 2 of them,
É bem foda.
and he picks the wrong one, and her head explodes. In the second episode, Cranky invents a potion to make himself younger, but DK also drinks it and turns into this creepy-looking baby DK. So Diddy heads out to find an antidote and sings this song in an extremely
Eu acho que
high-pitched falsetto voice.
o nome daquele jogo lá que eu tinha falado da menina, né? Que cai de avião. Era
Eventually the potion wears off, and
Turbo
DK
Wider,
beats up the
alguma
Kremlings
coisa
again,
assim.
Banana
Vou deixar a
Slamma,
foto dele
you get
também.
the idea.
Deixar a foto desse jogo
The third
também.
episode is where
Eu tava
things
falando
get
pra vocês
really
que eu joguei uma vez só.
Because this episode
Mas
starts
eu
off
acho que era
with
isso,
a
era
banger
Turbo
pirate rock
Wider,
song
alguma coisa.
sung by the
Acho que era isso.
crocodile Captain Scurvy about
Era
how
bem da
the
hora.
crystal skull is his birthright and he's coming back to take it.
Scurvy, I wish you'll never born. When the coconut is mine, then you'll feel this pirate scorn.
The pirates steal the coconut and kidnap DK and Diddy on their ship, but luckily this little croc offers to help them out if they help him get his teeth back. In song, of course.
Olha esses bichos, velho.
So DK and Diddy escape, the little blue croc eats the ship, and DK and Diddy enjoy a beautiful sunset back on shore. The fifth episode is significant because it gives us this iconic shot of DK's backside. In this episode, K. Rool is framing DK so that no one likes him and he's kicked off the island. This episode also finally introduces Diddy's
família.
girlfriend, Dixie,
I'll walk the rest of the way
Tem
with
que voltar a estudar inglês, pô.
and when they're
Tem que
alone,
voltar,
this
mano.
Kremling does a
parei
perfect
de uma
impression of
parada.
DK to hit on Dixie
Só
in his
sei
voice.
pouco, mano, bem pouco. Sei muito.
What about
Pior que eu não tô entendendo nada que ele tá falando, velho. Desculpa aí, o youtuber. Qual que é o seu
All
nome?
the
Né?
Kongs against the DK, he
É
banishes
Shoopy
himself
Doopy
to the White
A
Mountains where
Desculpa
we
aí,
get this
mano, mas
incredible ballad sung
Eu não-
beautifully
eu
by
não-
Donkey.
eu entendo. Tô entendendo. Mas o vídeo tá top, tá? O vídeo tá da hora, mas eu só não entendo não porque eu não estudei
So
não.
then Cranky astral projects himself
Fiquei de aprender,
to
tá
ask
ligado?
DK
Mas
for
vou
help.
aprender. tá
DK
ligado?
eats some bananas, heads down the
Mas tá
mountain,
foda o
and
vídeo.
defeats the Kremlings. Banana Slamma. The sixth episode is more of the same. The Kremlings steal the coconut, DK fights to get it back, but this one is significant as DK and Candy sing the song Our Love is Stronger Than a Golden Banana, and it's so good that even K. Rool gets into it.
Can't you see we're meant to be? Our love is stronger than a golden banana. Our love is stronger than a golden banana.
Caraca, tinha esses outros personagens ainda, velho. Caraca. Tinha os secundários, né? Eu nem sabia
Episode
que
11
tinha
revolves around a dance
esses outros
competition on
personagens.
Congo
Pra mim era
Bongo,
só ele,
where the winner
porque,
gets a wish from the crystal coconut.
como eu falei, eu não joguei muito. Era só... Jogava de vez em nunca, tá ligado? Bem raramente.
I noticed in this episode they're starting to have a lot more fun with the camera angles and movements, compared to the long static shots of the early episodes of the series. The last episode animated by Media Lab to air was episode 26, The Legend of the Crystal Coconut, featuring the song Gotta Get It Back, where the characters are all singing about getting the crystal coconut back, and I feel it's a pretty good encapsulation of the entire series, as almost every single episode revolved around someone stealing the crystal coconut and someone else trying to get it back.
Gotta bring it back. Gotta get it. Gotta bring it back. Gotta stuff it back.
But that wasn't the only Donkey Kong series that Media Lab made. No. Because at the same time that Donkey Kong Country was airing, they also created another show exclusively for French audiences called La Planeta de Donkey Kong, or Donkey Kong Planet. DK Planet was a programming block hosted by CG Donkey Kong and French actress Melanie Angeli, in which they would sing and dance in between other cartoons, kind of like Cartoon Fridays or Toonami back in the day, only with Donkey Kong instead. However, after the first season, Melania left the show, probably over creative differences with her co-host.
Ouais, non mais espèce de gros bêta de gorille, tu sais ce que ça veut dire un cajot?
Attention.
So they rebranded the show
É,
as
se pá, agora tem que pesquisar, né,
DK TV, where the
família?
Donkey Kong
Quem veio
characters would be
primeiro?
retextured in
Agora
different
eu não sei.
costumes and act out skits
O
and
Donkey
music
Kong
videos on
ou
live-action
King Kong?
backgrounds. It's
Quem é
insane.
o primeiro que foi inventado aí?
Ah non, je me suis trompée, c'est pas ça.
Tem que ver depois. Ver se Donkey Kong não é
They
uma cópia
parody
de
zombie
King Kong.
movies, Buffy
ou
the
se
Vampire
King Kong não é
Slayer,
uma
The
cópia
X-Files,
de Donkey Kong.
Toy Story 2, and whatever
Bom,
the heck this
eu não tenho
is.
dúvidas nenhuma, né? Que é a segunda opção, né? King Kong é cópia de Donkey Kong, porque você tá ligado, né? Quando a fama,
It's like a fever
quando
dream
a
watching
fama
clips
sai
of
da
this show,
cabeça,
especially since
não
I
dá.
don't speak French. But I gotta say, it is a very creative use of the Kong assets.
Donkey Kong,
And
né?
they even claim that this is the first real-time motion capture character on TV. And I believe them. Also, shout out to Carlito, who made an awesome video on this show. I'll link it down below. Check it out.
Les vacances sur DKTV.cool, y a pas à dire, c'est géant!
There was also a second season of the Donkey Kong Country TV series, but sadly, it was no longer animated by the French Media Lab, and instead was animated by Hongguang Animation in Taiwan. The lively and uncanny motion capture performances were replaced with stilted, key-framed animation, and it just doesn't hit the same, man.
Não, mas em via das dúvidas, o jogo é da hora, tá?
In one of the final
Eu
episodes
não
of the
assisti
series,
as
Donkey Kong
animações,
wishes
eu
he
não
had never
cheguei.
been born,
Eu acho que tem, né,
envisioning a
desenho,
world
tem alguma
without
coisa assim
decay
dele.
and singing the soulful ballad
Mas
If
só
I
joguei
Wasn't
só,
Around.
joguinhos dele.
They'd be better
Mas
off if I wasn't around.
This also served as a foreboding message of the Kong family future, as just a year later in 2002, Rare was bought by Microsoft, thus ending their fruitful partnership with Nintendo of almost a decade, and officially ending the Kong craze of the 90s. From there, Donkey Kong would enter
falando
a
na
dark
verdade, nem
period
tudo.
throughout the 2000s,
Nem os
in
filmes
which there
do
were no
King
new
Kong
mainline Donkey
direito
Kong games.
eu
He would
vi na
still
minha
show up as a
vida.
playable character in the Mario Sports
Imagina do
and party games,
do Donkey
and
Kong.
even starred in a few spin-offs like Donkey Konga or King of Swing, but it was never the same after Rare left. Years later, Donkey Kong returned in Donkey Kong Returns. And this is a fantastic game, bringing back the gameplay of the original series and even improving on a lot of aspects. But there was still something missing. The villains of this game were these tiki guys that looked more like they belonged in a Crash Bandicoot game than a Donkey Kong game.
We gotta help Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong recover their precious banana hoard from the villainous Tiki Pack tribe.
4 years later, they released a sequel, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which is another fantastic game. But again, the villains.
Aí, ó,
are
era tipo.
lacking.
É esse
Where is
daí,
the
mano.
Kremlin
É
King?
Crash, né?
This would be like
Putz,
if
é
Nintendo
verdade.
made a
É
Mario
esse
game
daí,
without
família.
Bowser.
Crash.
It's
Eu tava
just
tentando
weird.
falar.
And
da
while
raposinha.
Nintendo seemed to have forgotten about
Crash.
DK's greatest rival,
Agora que eu
the
lembrei.
fans did not.
Que
Because in
apareceu aí
2015,
agora
Nintendo
do...
created an official Smash
Crash.
ballot that allowed users to type in what
Bem legal.
characters they most wanted to see in the next Smash Bros. Game. And 3 years later, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was released with the catchphrase, "Everyone is here," referring to the fact that every character from every previous Smash Bros. Game would be playable in this, as well as many of the most voted characters from the Smash ballad. And that's how we got this. That's right, after years of neglect, King K. Rool finally made his triumphant return as DK's rival in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But then, just as it seemed DK and K. Rool were back together and better than ever, they vanished once again, with no new mainline Donkey Kong game since Tropical Freeze in 2014. But throughout that time, the fans continued to keep Donkey Kong Country alive. In 2021, animator Alex Henderson teamed up with Bootleg Dubs and Napalm Records to create Curse of the Crystal Coconut, a fan film animated music video to Ailstorm's cover of Pirate's Scorn from the pirate episode of Donkey Kong Country. The music and animation are so good in this, and the short is filled with references to the TV show and video games, with the pirate crew plundering Donkey Kong Island and Crocodile Isle to steal back the Crystal Coconut once and for all. That same team followed it up a year later with an even more ambitious short film, Return to Crocodile Isle, that was an original villain song for King K. Rool, and they even brought back the original voice actors from the animated series to perform.
Don't smile at this crocodile.
This short is a love letter to the original series and a celebration of K. Rool's grand return to Nintendo in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. These are both incredible short films, and I highly recommend them.
Any big, scaly villains you feel deserve a special shout-out? Bowser?
Return to Crocodile Isle could also be considered a final send-off to Donkey Kong's iconic rare design, because around this same time in 2023, we got the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which featured a redesigned DK for the first time since Donkey Kong Country in 1994, with Donkey Kong and Mario's creator Shigeru Miyamoto personally overseeing the redesign of his original character to make him more expressive and closer to his original vision of the silly ape.
I said simmer down! That means you, Diddy Kong!
Sorry.
And that brings us to 2025, where Nintendo announced Donkey Kong Bonanza for the Switch 2. And it appears his redesign is here to stay, with DK looking more cartoony and expressive than ever before. This time he's teaming up with a young Pauline instead of kidnapping her like in the original arcade game. And while the main antagonists of this game seem to be the evil Kongs of Void Co., some eagle-eyed fans have noticed that there may be some hints that maybe, just maybe, the Kremlin King may rise again.
I'm not any less convinced that Kremlings are in fact in this game.
Definitely gave me King K. Rool vibes, in particular with the reptilian look and the, the kind of crocodile-like face almost.
When we look closer at these guys, they have very similar proportions to the Kremlings, as many people have noticed.
Even the statue that Grumpy Kong builds looks like a goofy caricature of King K. Rool, doesn't it? I mean, it's even got the liquid gold crown on his head.
Crocoid skeletons not only have the same proportions as the Kremlings, they also have the same stance. Thanks to certain instances in Mario Strikers and Donkey Kong Country, we can see what Kremling skeletons looked like in the past.
This weird plant thing straight up looks reptilian, or at least green reptile type skin, along with claws that seem like they could be very similar to, again, King K. Rool. Look at that, like his hand claws. In fact, even reminded me more specifically of his feet, which, by the way, don't ever Google King K. Rool feet. I made that mistake. I won't ever do it again.
That's about all I've got for today. Thank you so much if you made it to the end of the video. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe if you want to support the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Goodbye, mano. Goodbye. Mas é isso. Esse foi o vídeo, família. Se inscreve lá no canal do... Deixa lá. Normalmente eu sempre deixo o nome aqui embaixo, mas é isso. Seguem lá, deixa o like lá. Se inscreve lá porque o cara é bom, tá? Os vídeos é da hora. Aqui também, não se esquece de inscrever aqui, deixa o like aqui também. Que nós sempre de sábado a sábado estamos postando vídeo aí E é nóis, tamo junto. Valeu. Até a próxima.